Hey everybody, my name is Angie Murenga. You're watching Just Angie. It's Mwangi Monday, where we discuss all things governance. I've been having the most amazing conversation with Dr. Sheila Konyu. It has been amazing. And we're talking about spirituality, religion, mental health, African psychology. I mean, I just love it. It's like, wow. It's like I'm opening... It's like I'm a kid in a candy store. I don't know why I feel like that. You know, we're just excited about unpacking all these layers of who we are. But today I want you to speak about embodiment, power, fear, and the other. And I guess it's to do with the context of African psychology, because this is what your thesis was on about.
Yeah, no, when I was thinking about, when I wrote that, I was trying to describe our spiritual terrain and sort of make sense of how we see our spirituality. So as Africans, our spirituality is very embodied. So embodiment is about, it's not just a thinking kind of spirituality. We connect with God through our body, you know, through kneeling, dancing, clapping, you know. And then also embodiment is also using objects. Right, so that's how, like, we have the Bible, or we have to do things, anointing oil, and then this now play out into how the healing happens. So even when we think about how to translate healing within our African context, we have to think about healing being just not just thinking, not just interacting cognitively, but how do we use our body to be able to bring about healing. I think about even when, you know, somebody who's depressed, and we usually cognitively tell them, you know, you engage in activities, but even just going to church, you find even just that singing, jumping, you know, is a way that we are embodying our faith, but also can be a way that we can even bring about healing. So that's the embodiment. The power has to do with the idea that we always are attentive to the spiritual powers.
We're very
right?
alert.
As Africans, we are attuned to who has the most spiritual power.
Yes.
And then when we have an illness, we are always attuning to what's the source of the spiritual power behind the illness. And so we have to attune when our clients come, helping them make sense of how are they understanding the power behind why they are feeling the way that they feel. And if you don't respond to some of those questions, then you find somebody doesn't feel fully satisfied because, you know, you've not responded to the core reason why. Remember, we said for the West, they may understand it from a biological point of view. For us, it's the spiritual powers. And then that even now brings me to the idea of the fear. Our spirituality is also very fear-based or fear-focused, right? We are always attuned to who has more spiritual power than me. Who will do what to be able to cause me harm. And so we try to do things to protect ourselves because somebody can misuse their spiritual power to come against me. And so that's how you find those, say, amulets or things people take on or going to consult, so that there is a sense of protection. So that fear is, we are hypervigilant. That's why things like Halloween, we don't joke around with, because we are like, we are attuned to spiritual forces, and we always cover ourselves
in that spiritual force.
Exactly. So understanding that we are always aware that there's an enemy, and that enemy is out to get me. And so the things that we do to help protect ourselves. And so you can imagine within such a context, when somebody has a mental illness, they feel like, what did I do to cause it?
Yes.
You know, what spiritual hedge was broken that caused that disease to come to me and not to my neighbor? Because our lens is only spiritual. But if we can expand that lens and say, yes, there could be a spiritual cause, but also some of these illnesses run within families. So
there's a scientific reason behind this illness.
Behind it, exactly. So that if we expand, then we are like, oh, so it's not just I need a spiritual tool to help me be able to make sense of it. No, I also need, yes, the spiritual tool, but also the scientific tool to make sense. So if it runs within my family, oh, okay, so it's not just about me, then that frees us. Now the other, that means that our spirituality is not just individualistic. So it speaks against this individualism.
Which is also a Western ideology.
Which is often a Western sort of mindset, and yet also creeping up here. But our sense of identity is tied to the other people, right? So it's not just about me. So even with mental illness, you find that in some of the ways we understand, it's almost like the ancestors could be saying something through me who has a mental health condition, you know, so that my condition is not just seen as it being about me alone. It's like which spiritual hedge was broken that caused this illness to come into our clan, into our community. Remember in the past, you know, the attributes that were known about your community could impact. Do people marry in this family? Because in that family, we know these people are like this. So it's the idea that even when you're dealing with a client, you have to tune into how, not just how are they perceiving what's going on with them, but how are those around them also perceiving what's happening. How are we equipping those around us to be able to help support this person? Because they may be thinking that, because even I have a lot of clients even who come for therapy and they've never told anyone in their family because they know, hey, if I say, how will this other person look at me? And I think that's even where the stigma really perpetuates, either within families, even within community, even within the church. And that's why I'm saying, if we can equip ourselves as the church community, as the workplace community, so that we normalize and sort of remove this stigma, so that we make it okay for you to seek help. For you, if you're hurting, for me to be able to identify, hey, the way you're behaving, we'll pray together. But also, imagine here is a psychologist, let me take you, or here is a psychiatrist. I think you need additional help beyond just sitting. So the more we empower, then the more we can be able to make sense of it. So each of those dimensions can be areas that can actually give us tools to be able to help us be better equipped to be able to respond to the sensibilities of us as Africans and actually a lot of non-Western contexts. So that's sort of really what powerful. I sought to.
And I don't know, when you were speaking, I was also thinking about iniquity. What about iniquity? Because they'll say iniquity will visit the generations, but I think you've handled it, you know. This could be generational. It could be a community thing. It could be a tribal thing. It could be something, you know. It involves more than just me. It could be hereditary. It could be from the lineage. But we do have the tools to tackle it from a spiritual perspective and from a scientific psychology perspective.
It reminds me of the trauma conversation we were having about how
women in trauma.
It's this quote, and we'll need to find the name of the person. I forget the name of the person, but that trauma decontextualized looks like, in an individual, it looks like personality. Within a family, it looks like family traits. And then within a culture, when it's decontextualized, within a community,
like a nation,
it looks like culture, right? So there are things that are normative within our culture, within our families, and yet there are ways we've become because of trauma. Now, psychological tools can help to unpack those things. Even as spiritual tools can also be able to help us deal with either curses or any iniquities, as you're putting it, but also unlearn patterns. And that's why you find that family, you say, I'll not end up like this,
but you end up exactly.
And then you end up like that. It's because you're repeating some of that historical generational trauma. And if you begin to work through, and that's the way that you cut short and interrupt that generational trauma.
And then I was thinking, because today I was reflecting on learned behavior, because we can just learn it. It's just the way that we have always done it, or it's how we cope, or it's how we speak, or people here don't speak about things, so even us, we don't speak about them, you know. So there's so many dimensions of who we are. And also it brought me to that book by Oprah's book about what happened to you. I thought that, first of all, the reversing of the question of what's wrong with me to what happened to me was powerful. Timeless. I was like, no wonder she's Oprah. This is why she is Oprah. This is why I said. Because it's powerful. It's not about what's wrong with me. It's what happened to us. So a lot of things happened to us. I don't even know why. And I was thinking about it this morning, and I knew it would feature somewhere, but I don't know. So I think I want to say it now. It's like when you when you're in a context, let's say of a school, and you have many, many different children, they come together. And I don't know why I felt there's a bully. Yeah. So there's a bully, but maybe he's seen his mother bully his father, or his father bully his mother. Bullying has been around him. So when he's there lining up and people are getting their uniform, he looks like a very innocent child. But hallelujah, the bully has arrived. And that bully can do so much harm. But the whole idea, I don't know why God kept reminding me, it's really not about this child. It's his context.
Yes.
What is his context? Where has he been brought up? What has he been exposed to, or she? You know? That's what forms us.
Yes, absolutely.
That is what forms us. And then now that's why I like, and I hope you can give us another tool. I don't know, I'm putting under pressure, but what I like about the attachment style, it's free and it's on the internet. And you just attach attachment style quiz. Once you answer questions truthfully about yourself, honestly, and then they give you an amazing report. You know, some people should just be blessed, hugged, and just, you know, celebrated. Then they give you a detail. It took me 4 hours to go through my report, just because I'm extra like that. And I was like, wow, finally I understand who I am and why I behave the way I do. That's beautiful, but there must be other tools as well, so that we begin to work on ourselves. What other tools? Because some people, it's going to take a process to get to the therapist. But the call to action is to go see a therapist. Even if you don't think you need one. Because I like the way you said, like, I mean, we're the therapists. Why do we need a therapist? But then the light, you know, you saw something switch on in that person. And they became somebody different, you know. I don't know whether it's the ownership angle as well. Like for me, I think there's the way I come off with people. But, you know, my statement was, even in Women in Trauma, was those who love me, love me. Those who get me, get me. Those who don't, don't. But I'm still working on myself. I'm like, okay, Pastor Angie, you do come off like this. So, you know, let's work on this. But also the freedom, I don't know, and I want to let you talk. But one day, the freedom that I got when I realized, sometimes I've messed things up, messed relationships up, messed people up. But then again, so then I beat myself over it. Then the Lord will tell me, they're also messed up. Yeah, those same people, everyone is messed up. We're all messed up, yeah. So we're all trying to make a place out of our mess. But I was saying, I love the owning process. I love the owning process. So I don't know, what other tools can they use?
No, that's a good question. And the truth is, there are so many tools. Maybe what we can do is find some tools and curate them on the site. I don't have any off the top of my head, and I want to make sure I give people good tools.
Or they can call you and email you, can they?
Yeah, we can leave my number there and we can see. But I think practical tools, like even just understanding like the genogram. I don't know if you've done the family tree, right? Being able to do a family tree of understanding some of the patterns.
But I have
within
seen the
your
patterns.
own
That one I've done.
Family.
Yes.
Right? So that's a way to even take stock and understand, okay, so put yourself in the middle, trace like almost 3 generations back of the different categories and see what's different about you, right? Why do you behave the way you do? Trace history of either mental illness, of addictions, of different maybe personalities or deaths, and see if there are any marriages or not, and see if there's a recurring pattern. That's something that I think we can all be able to take stock of. And then when you talked about the bully child, I thought about the context. You and I can begin to change the context. The things that help promote mental wellness, mental health, like for example, seeking help. Are things that go counter to what our culture says, right? Things like men are supposed to not cry and be strong.
They need to be crying
and us who are supposed to be those strong people who are supposed to be all together. Those messages are destroying us. They are putting such weights on us to be all together and deny our humanity, and that's the humanity that God created. So we need to push past those messages and be different. And so you and I can begin that task of normalizing it being okay to show emotion, it being okay to take rest and to enjoy, you know, time off without feeling guilty, without feeling like I'm not as spiritual if I have to keep pushing myself. Sometimes even the language within our spiritual contexts encourages that martyrdom, you know, where you feel like the more I martyr myself and overrun myself, then the more spiritual I am. And it's like, that's even not healthy for you. So we need to have a balance and push past these messages that don't promote good mental health. So seek help. The stigma is you and I to destroy. By encouraging, normalizing, it's okay that you're going for therapy, that's great. Maybe even pay for somebody or take somebody who is struggling, or say, here are contacts. And I feel like there's so much more healing that we can experience as a nation, as a community, if we make it okay to be weak, to be human, to embrace those parts of ourselves that are not all together, and to just celebrate the image of God
to allow ourselves. So that's good. And I think I'm going to have Dr. Konyu back. We really had a good session on women in trauma, but we have a few more things that are planned for us outside there in the world that we want to do. But I think I will bring her back just to have a conversation, because that was also very powerful. Just to take the feedback that we got and to begin to handle. But I think trauma is for everyone. I think we should call it leaders and trauma, and not necessarily women and trauma.
So to invite the men.
So we invite the men as well.
Space and forums for the men, absolutely.
And I'm so excited about you. I'm excited about our relationship. I love you with everything that I have. Thank you so much, Faith, for introducing Dr. Konyu to me. I'm so excited. Shout out to Faith. But thank you so much, Dr. Konyu. You have a great purpose and calling on this side of the world. We're glad you came back to the continent. And we look forward to helping people align their spirituality and their mental health, their spirituality and psychology. I don't know, it makes me excited when I say it like that. I'm like, wow. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on this platform, for inviting me with the Women and Trauma, and just being in my life. I think, like we've said, there's a divine thing here. It's too good to be true, because the coincidence is it's unbelievable. And like I said, I've watched you on this forum over the years, and so I feel so honored that I get to come and be a guest on this side of the camera. I'm honored and I'm humbled. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think we're good for each other, especially the place where you're kicking and screaming. I'm going where I'm kicking and screaming, and you're taking me saying this is the way. So I think that's amazing, and I'm really looking forward to healing. And to allowing others to experience God's healing as well, and to understand who they are, and to give people a different, I almost feel like a different start, that they can be different.
Amen.
Amen. Oh, I hope you have enjoyed that. You cannot possibly not have enjoyed that. I have enjoyed that completely, totally. I hope we've made things more clear. Please go to therapy. I think that's the call to action. And even a step to therapy is to do the attachment style. Those people should pay me money. But anyway, do the attachment style. It's free. You just go to attachment style, I think, quiz, and find it, do it, read the report. You can take it to your first therapy session as well. It's a very good conversation starter. If you feel like the therapist is too much, you can find a good coach, find a good mentor, find somebody older and wiser who can talk you through this, And I'm always, mentors, when you identify mentors, identify somebody who you like something in their life. You're like, this is the way I would love my life to go. But of course, God will do bigger and better. But that's how you find a mentor, somebody you can listen to, and somebody you think has achieved success and greatness in areas that you yourself would want to achieve. God bless you. Take care. Bye. Say bye.
Bye. Thank you.